Good evening, everyone. This is Sean Yurkron and
Lindsay back on.
okay, I was just trying to point to you when to go. We're going live, and I don't even know what time it is.
We hope we're live. We hope you can hear. It's 9:06.
9:06 p.m. on Sunday, the 22nd.
We've only been trying to get this up and going for the last 20 minutes or so.
As you can see, Lindsay has fixed the wall in my podcast room that we built, and it's the spaces that have little lights that are white spaces. That's the hard part. So
sometimes you just have to have if you want to get it right, you got to find a woman, right?
Generally, that's what they say, or if you want to give someone your house, like that's usually what the other way it is. But anyway, so we're here doing.
You would know. You would know.
Yeah, apparently, we're doing a Christmas special. I guess we would call it here. We've got
is this our Christmas special?
Yeah. Even like we've got our chokeway on a shelf sitting here right now. I just got this. His yellow suit is coming in tomorrow, so that's gonna be pretty cool. I can't wait to do a video about that. And but other than that, that's our only decoration. He's probably gonna fall over. But anyway.
I know we did have a Christmas tree, but Sean took it to his office.
Yep.
Oh, there he is.
So
we
anyway,
should have brought the boat in here.
Oh yeah, the Lego boat. I got the Lego boat. The
yacht.
The Jody and Chokeway own. It's a Lego boat, which is pretty funny, and it's available for $99.99. So if you want to buy it, you can.
What's the code for easy installments?
The code is I buy cows. If you want to get it, so.
And if you want to pay in 4 easy installments, you can just put whole DA in there.
Yeah, the whole DA, or I buy cows. That's what I like. I buy cows.
Something like that.
Yep. Anyway, we're going to start off with a few topics. The first one we thought this week would be about what happened with the Rankin County Sheriff's Department with Joshua Pace, who the person, unfortunately, that I know intimately. And, not intimately like that.
Wait a minute. That was not the right word, Sean. Right, yeah. You do not know him intimately.
Well, not like that, but, he wanted to know me.
I'll just tell you, the first thing a girlfriend wants to hear is that, hey, I'm being stalked by someone, and he just sent me pictures that he's outside my office with his gun.
Yeah, so let's give you the backstory real quick. So in the news this week, Joshua Pace, a Rankin County man, I believe, he had threatened the Rankin County Sheriff's Department with numerous phone calls to blow up the department, and he was arrested for that. He was on parole, I believe, from MDOC for elder abuse. I'm not sure the facts behind that, but I'm sure that would be something that he'll be revoked on shortly. But he had threatened to blow up the department. Now, my interactions came with him about a year ago. We had done some coverage about the Goon Squad, pretty extensive coverage about that. And he had contacted me based upon that to talk about his interaction with the Goon Squad. Well, I talked to him, and, his I just didn't really, I didn't understand what he was saying and whatnot. I don't know if he wanted to be a media source or what his deal was anyway.
Wasn't making a whole lot of sense, I don't think.
Wasn't making a whole lot of sense to me. So I just kind of just didn't speak to him again. And he then proceeded to continue to stalk me, I guess you would say.
Right.
Yeah. And
which Sean did not tell me about for quite some time.
Right. Yeah. He showed up to my office with a sniper rifle at one point and took pictures of himself at the gate of my office. There's a gate to my office. You need a code to get in.
Thank goodness.
Yeah, and he showed up there, and then he had sent me a lot of Facebook messages threatening me and whatnot. And I didn't really call the play. I just thought, I'm just in this business. I've been doing it for 19 years, whether on the prosecution side or now on the criminal defense side, and I'm just used to loon balls. So I don't know how to I kind of brush it off. But when I tell Lindsay about it, she's like, "A guy showed up to your office with a sniper rifle." I'm like, "Yeah,
like, what?
Cost of doing business.
What are we gonna do about this?"
I mean, if I could count the amount of times when I was an assistant DA that I was threatened, I guess I would be a rich man, or if I got a nickel for that, So.
Yeah, well, I mean, and I guess he made 20 threatening calls to the sheriff's office between the hours of, it was like an 8-hour time span overnight during the middle of the night. And so he was eventually arrested, but then come to find out since then, all of these people have come out and talked about how he has done the same thing to them. There's so many people with stories about this man. He obviously needs some real help.
Yeah. I'm not even mad at the guy. I mean, I never really felt threatened by him. I just thought he was a psychopath, like just little Looney Tune, need to go bang his head against the wall in Whitfield or something like that. So I wasn't really that concerned. So I did not call anybody when all that happened. I just kind of ignored him. Again, throughout the last 19 years, I've been threatened so many dang times that it's just not something that
I'm pretty sure he told me he called someone.
I don't even know if did I tell you about the event when it happened? I can't remember.
I think you waited a while and then told me.
Well, I didn't tell my mother because I put it on Facebook. She was like, "What the hell?"
I mean, yeah.
Like, Mom, I told you every time some idiot, crazy person has threatened me.
Yeah, but you eventually did tell me about this one because it got a little. I mean, he went away for a while, and then he came back.
He came back on Facebook and he sent me these messages that were like explicited
And was
me,
literally right
yeah.
outside your office. I mean, and,
Yeah, he
and
was,
sending you
yeah.
pictures of guns. And
Yeah, I was. He's like telling me the kind of gun he had, and and his truck like bumped against the gate of my office gate. It was really weird. It was really weird guy.
and this is not even somebody that you know personally,
no.
or even know why he kind of sought you
No.
out.
I don't. I think he just heard me on the radio talking about the Goon Squad and wanted to talk about the Goon Squad or whatever it was, as far as I know. But he just seemed like he had some problems. So hopefully he'll get the help he needs.
They keep him there a while and make sure
Yeah.
before they release him back into society that
Right.
he is mentally stable, because I don't think that he is. It certainly doesn't sound that way.
I would probably say he's not mentally
Yeah.
stable. When you show up to a lawyer's office with a sniper rifle and threaten to blow up the Rankin County Sheriff's Department, I'm guessing you are not the most stable person in the world.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
anyway.
For sure.
Well, that's about that. That's our Christmas lunatic for the week. And,
Who to wrap up and tie up in jail with some Christmas ribbon, and
Right.
keep them there.
Yeah. Well, hopefully have a good Christmas. And no, I really I have no animosity towards this guy. Hope he gets the help he needs.
I have a little animosity toward it.
Well, we have we have a mental health problem in this country, as we all know, and people need this the best assistance they can.
We do have that.
Well, speaking about that, mental health problems are just evil problems. The next story that we've got is about this puppy thing that's been going on. And I'll let Lindsay kind of take the baton on that one.
Well, so, my friend Amber, we were sitting here last Sunday night, a week ago tonight, actually, and she had her dog had been run over, and her kids were extremely upset. She was upset, and she had seen where another friend of ours, Kara, was rehoming her dog. So she had wanted to talk to Kara and see about maybe adopting her dog. So she reached out to me and said, hey, can you get in touch with Kara, or can you give me her phone number? And so I did that. And sadly, Kara had already promised her dog to someone else. And Amber was just kind of beside herself because her kids are upset. They're crying. They want their dog back. They just want a new puppy. And so she did what a good mom does. And she gets online and she starts looking for a new dog for her kids, because they loved this dog. This dog was a member of their family. As you know, I know how you are with your dogs. And,
I love my dog like a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and so she found a dog, and she talked to this woman, but the woman would not text her. She would have to call and speak with this woman on the phone.
Yeah.
And then she went to meet this woman. The woman wanted to meet her in Jackson. Well, Amber's husband was out of town, and she didn't feel comfortable going to meet this woman. The woman would only accept cash. And I believe it was like $690, something around that. And she didn't feel comfortable going to meet a woman in Jackson with that amount of cash on her that she did not know personally. And so she finally told the woman, it's okay, we can, there's another dog we can get. And in 30 minutes, the woman calls her back and says, no, I'll meet you right off the interstate. Well, Amber, being the smart person that she is, she contacts a family friend that she goes to church with, who's a police officer. And she has that person show up at the gas station where they're going to meet right off the interstate. They get there almost 30 minutes early, and they sit there and wait. Finally, she calls the woman, and the woman says, oh, I know you're here. I've been watching you. Well, the woman was in a van that she had gotten there even earlier than 30 minutes prior to the appointment time, backed her van into a parking spot where you could not see the tag. And she did not know at this point that Amber had a cop there watching as well. But she gives them this puppy. They fall in love immediately. They name the dog Toby. And get home, puppy is immediately sick.
Yeah.
She's having diarrhea. She's throwing up. There's blood in her stool, blood in her vomit. And so Amber gets nervous and takes her to the vet. They ran all kind of tests. There was negative for parvo, but we do know this dog is very, very sick. And according to all accounts, for the two vets that Amber took this puppy to, this dog, who was supposed to be 12 weeks old eating hard food, is somewhere between 5 and 7 weeks old.
Okay.
Not 12 weeks old. And Amber makes a TikTok and a Facebook video, puts a Facebook video out there, and immediately is bombarded with people with horror stories from this same woman. This woman has been doing this to people for decades.
She's got a pretty nice house too, doesn't she?
Yeah, she does. And that's not the only property she owns. She's got multiple properties. She's got a house that's gated in the community, and the front of her house is actually a Madison address. The back of her house, where this big barn is, where she houses all these puppies, is actually a Ridgeland address. She goes by multiple names and aliases. There are, I mean, going back at least 20 years,
Yeah.
people, she's been doing this to people at least 20 years. She is selling these dogs as minis so that she can charge more for these puppies because you can get more money for a mini or a miniature dog. And they're not miniature. They're just not old enough to actually leave their mom. And then not only that, but they're not full-blooded. There have been several people who have done these DNA tests on their dogs, and they've come back to have multiple types of dogs in their bloodline. And, these dogs, so many people have gotten these dogs and they've died within days.
Yeah.
The vets know who she is. The shelters, the people that run shelters know exactly who she is. And her name's all over the internet. You search her name, one of her names, and you'll find multiple horror stories about this woman. And she has been allowed to get away with this for at least 17 years.
Okay.
And we even had a story run in 2020 by WJTV who spoke with someone who was a worker for her. There was video of the kennel where all these dogs are being housed, and they're dying, and they're just like, they just burn the dogs' bodies. He said the water they would give the dogs, there's obviously some kind of contamination. The dogs wouldn't even touch the water. It's so sad. And I think the problem is it just has not been taken to the right people. So I immediately, as soon as I heard Amber's video, I was sobbing with her as I'm watching her cry about the situation and this puppy that she's got that she doesn't know if is going to live. They just lived through this traumatic experience of losing their dog, who was like a family member. She gets this puppy. Now she doesn't know if this puppy's going to live. They're deep into vet bills here. And I immediately texted Sean and said, we've got to do a podcast on this. We've got to expose this woman. This is horrible what we're seeing take place. But Amber has a pretty big following. I mean, she's pretty well known on TikTok, and she put some TikTok videos out there. And I'll tell you what, there's a whole Facebook group devoted to exposing.
She had like 1 million views, didn't you?
Oh yeah, over 1 million views.
more than anything we could do with a podcast.
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
but people started to flood this Facebook page that's been put out there. And it's called Victims of Vicki Davis. So Vicki Davis is one of the names that she goes by. And it's called Victims of Vicki Davis. And in that podcast, I mean, that Facebook page grew from 300 members to, I think now it's up to 8,000 or more.
Wow.
In just a couple days.
Yeah. I mean, I think all of us know in Mississippi, one thing I learned over the years is like, you could kill somebody's wife, but you better not mess with their dog.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the way it sounds. And then, I mean, like, I go the same for me. Like one of the best stories I have was back from my time at the Hinds County DA's office.
I love this story. I love when you tell this story.
When I was like 27 years old, and I had a dog when I was younger, but not the way I have a dog now, that like where I've had one I've actually put through chemotherapy. Yes, that's how much I've loved my dog. And then now, when that dog passed away, I got another one. And I understand when you're older, you understand how important they are, I think, a lot better than when you're younger. So when I was 27, I didn't quite get it because I don't have that, childhood dog like everybody's got,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so this lady comes to my office, and her house had been burglarized over in Willowwood, which is over kind of South Jackson area. And she was, I don't know, like in her 60s or something at the time. And her and her husband, the kids were out of the house, and all they had was a small dog, like kind of like the one I got now, small dog. I had a Shih Tzu. And it was named Rosie. I'll never forget that. And these two assholes had broken into several houses on that block, but shot the dog, I mean, and it wasn't like this was Cujo, like, you know what I mean? Like where they were like in threat of their lives. Shoot the dog, kill the dog. People get home. They weren't
tiny dog. I mean, what's the
dog.
reason?
I mean, it was a little tiny dog, and it wasn't like the dog was a threat to their lives. They were just being assholes. So
they're just mean people. Mean people.
So, it came time. They were caught dead to rights. I think they even confessed. And it was like 5 house burglaries. And if I think at the time, the penalty on house burglary was like 25 years for each burglary, so you could really load somebody up.
Yeah.
And so Judge Swan Yerger was an old Hinds County Circuit judge. He was like 90 at the time. He just died like a year ago at like 1,000. And I'm not laughing. He was a good man, and I don't know laugh, but he was like really old even at this time. And so this lady shows up to the plea hearing. You have a plea hearing. The victims are allowed to speak at the hearing, and she's got a shirt that's screen printed with the dog on it. It was Rosie. I mean, like, she is like all in. Like, she's more about this dog.
She was more upset about the dog than anything else that happened.
More than I've seen most victims about like their family members have been killed. Like, she was that bad, and so she, like, the judge is just gonna sentence these guys on a regular house burglary that you would get. Normally, you'd get like between 5 to 10 years the most, whatever. And well, so she gets up there and she gives a speech about how she loved the dog and her husband loved the dog. The kids moved out, all they had was a dog. And she sits back down and you could see him turning red. Like, I'll never forget this. And he says, okay, well, bring the defendants over here. And they stand up before him. And he says, I sentence each of you to 75 years. I swear to God, he did it. And I was like, oh my God. And I go check on MDOC's website. And the guy's name is Justin Lomax. Somebody wants to look this up and verify it. And I still look and he's still there, and I don't forget what the percentage on house burglary is right now, but the
Judge Ogre must have loved his dog. He must have been a real dog person. His dog.
He was so mad. But to fast forward, this is 15, 16 years ago. If I were the circuit judge and that had happened, I'd have done the same damn thing. Like, I would have been that angry when I'd be like, you're getting 75 years. I don't care. Like, I'm not kidding. Like, right now, I might give them 150 years. Like, that's how angry I would be. So anyway, the point is, this puppy mill thing, I get the outrage from everybody because we all love our dogs and they're a part of our family, and it's really an important thing. And especially if you're by yourself and the dog's all you got, and I understand that. I've been like that many times in my life. So it's a horrible thing, and so I hope they crucify this woman. And any assistance I can give the Madison Rankin County DA's office, I'll be glad to do.
And I think that's where it's got to go. It's got to go to the DA's office. It's got
or
to
the
be
Attorney General's office can look at it.
Because I think it just hasn't gotten that far. It's been pushed over to animal control in Ridgeland and Madison County, and they, I guess, haven't known what to do with it or where to take it, and that's why.
Well, I think they were, initially maybe it was conflated with an animal control issue and not what it really is, which what it really is a scam. I call it the legal term would be a false pretense.
Fraud. Complete total fraud.
Just to put it, basically, it's a scam. It's just a layman's term. It's a scam. And this lady's been scamming people. And what I mean by scam is, like, you say this little chuckwagon on a shelf is actually a non-corrupt mare on a shelf, and what you get is a corrupt mare on the shelf. That's not what you paid for. You paid for the non-corrupt. You voted for the non-corrupt elf on a shelf, but you didn't get that. You got the corrupt one.
The one that's not going to take all the bribes.
Yeah, right. So, like, the lady said, I'm going to sell you the non-corrupt mare that won't take bribes, and instead you got the one that went to the strip club in Miami and partied on the yacht, which wasn't fair because you didn't pay or vote for that mare. Same thing. Like, someone says they're going to sell you a Shih Tzu, and you end up with like a Maltese that's all messed up and blah blah blah. You didn't pay for that. It's a scam. So, lady's a scam artist, and hopefully she's going to get what's coming to her, and I think she will. So
we started talking about this, and then another friend of ours actually reached out, Andrew Gasser, and he lives over in Hinds County, and he said, we bought his whole name something BB.
Right.
I can't remember, BB Queen or something like that. Yeah. And he said, we bought our Shih Tzu and sent a picture. Bernadette, his wife, sent a picture and looked so much like your Ray. Yeah. And so they've had her a little less than 2 years now, I think, and having hip dysplasia problems. It's like taking care of a child. They have to pick her up to take her outside. Just because of the genetic effects, especially, I think it starts with taking them away from their mom so young and then continuing to breed them over and over and over. And so obviously these dogs are just they're not healthy dogs.
Sure.
It blows my mind that you can go to sleep in this big house behind this gated fence and know that there's this barn out there where all these sweet,
it's like a Branch Davidian complex for dogs.
Yeah.
Right.
So I got to meet Toby and hold him the other day, and he just has my heart. I think he's going to be okay.
They literally cannot flog and beat this woman enough, in my opinion. If the allegations are true, now she's innocent to proven guilty, but if the allegations are true,
well, there's so many people that have made these
punishment will not be harsh enough in my mind.
Yeah. So that's the thing. Now, if they are able to do these, to make or to get these charges, these false pretense charges, what is it's a felony.
Correct. Yeah. Over $500 is a felony. Yeah.
So, and then those would stack up.
Sure,
think about how many of those there could be over a 20 year.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's 10 years on each count, and I mean, she could be looking at hundreds of years in prison, for which she deserves.
Absolutely.
So which she deserves. If these are true, again, everyone is innocent and proven guilty. I take
Put her
that
over there with
seriously.
Josh Pace.
Yeah, but if they are true, then I hope they bury her under the fucking jail. But anyway, that's my opinion.
Yeah, and we know Bubba Bramlett, and he's a great guy. I think the world of him. So I have no doubt that he is going to
I'm sure he'll
investigate this to the fullest. And
maybe she didn't do anything. I don't know. We'll see what happens. I'm assuming I'm leaning with she's guilty as shit, but I don't know.
This is alleged.
So, yeah, it's all alleged. That's why I say that, because I don't want to get sued. I'll say to Lindsay what I really think, but on air I will say allegedly this woman could be innocent. I don't know that she's done this, but it looks pretty freaking bad. So
It does look bad. So we're just going to be praying that justice is served in that case. And
right.
I know what you believe justice should be for her. Burn them at the stake.
It's kind of like what I think should happen to Jody and Chokwe. I think they should cut their heads off, stick them on pikes, and burn their bodies. Like that's what I think should happen. But that's my part of justice. I mean, just the Roman
They
style,
haven't been convicted yet either.
Right. They could be innocent. I think they're as innocent as I do the dog lady.
There's
if that tells you anything. I think Chokwe is as innocent as I think the dog lady, if that gives anybody any indication of what I think. So
yeah.
So anyway. Well. All right, I guess we can move along for our last topic because we're not going to go too long tonight. School shootings, right?
Look, it's got to stop. It's got to stop.
Well, that's the understatement of the year.
Well,
right? You know. Yes, they have to stop. We got that.
I get so daggum frustrated with people saying this is a gun issue or this is a mental health issue. This is a safety issue.
Well, yeah, I mean,
it has got to happen that our schools have the resources and have the means in place to be able to identify a threat and remove that threat before innocent children and teachers are shot and killed.
Right.
We are able to throw money in this country, gobs and gobs and gobs of money at any and everything. In the state of Mississippi, our tax dollars, the biggest portion of our tax dollars go to education. Yet we can't afford to put more than one school resource officer at every school. I'm telling you, a lot of people believe the school shootings actually started here in 97 with Luke Woodham at Pearl High School. It's going to happen again.
Yeah.
It will happen again here if we don't get our schools locked down. And I hear all the time, you don't want to make your school feel like a prison. I get it. Nobody wants their school to feel like a prison. But I would much rather my child be in a school that's completely locked down and safe rather than have to bury one of them.
You know, I hear the argument all the time and I respect it, but I'll say this. What's the alternative? What is the alternative?
Well, I mean, we know banning guns is not going to stop the bad guys from getting the gun.
Well, yeah, that's not going to work. The banning, it's kind of like what I was saying. Like on the left, they're going to talk about, on my side, we'll always talk about banning guns. It's just not going to work because people want to get guns. I've seen that, being a prosecutor, being on law enforcement, like they're going to get guns. Okay, so let's throw that out the door. But then the right, what they do is like, oh, well, let's arm teachers. That's equally freaking ridiculous. Like that is not going to work either. Well, it is equally a bad solution. It is not.
It's not the end all solution.
It's a bad solution.
It's a Band-Aid.
Which you don't need a Band-Aid, as we've seen. You need real solutions. And the only solution that we have, if we want to keep, everybody wants to keep guns, which we're going to keep, that's not going to change. And we're not going to arm the lunch lady and make her SEAL Team 6. This is insane.
Well, nobody's making them. No, we did pass the Guardian Act in Mississippi 2 years ago during session. I was proud of that. I supported it completely. I think it's dumb as hell, but I supported it completely, and I still do. Teachers are given an incentive if they choose to do so, and they are able to go and take safety training courses, and they are able to conceal carry on campuses of schools, so that there is someone who is armed in a classroom should this potentially happen.
Why is that even a thought process? Like, why aren't we having proper security? Why is it even like we get armed the lunch lady or the librarian?
Because they don't want to they don't want to give schools the money for that.
That's the problem.
See, that's what I'm saying. What they do? They line the pockets of the superintendents.
Right, exactly. We agree on this, but they're like, we're going to arm the lunch lady and the librarian and make them in a freaking SEAL Team 6, and that's our solution.
They're not making them. They're not making them.
And I think that is
completely volunteer.
Well, I think that's unbelievably insane when we're talking about how pervasive a problem this is. Like if we're, and I'm not even taking the normal position the left takes about like, let's get rid of guns. I think that's stupid. I'm saying,
and I'm not on the right. I'm not on the right side of it.
Let's stop these stupid Band-Aid ideas. This is not going to work. Because Megan is going to get overrun by some school shooter one day. That's going to happen.
Oh, it's going to happen. It's going to happen everywhere. And if you think it's not going to happen.
No offense to all the Megans out there. I'm sure you guys are great. They're great educators and I respect what you do. Well, I'm just saying Megan, Mackenzie. That's what I call like the elementary school teachers. Their names.
Why are they Megans?
I don't know. Just those, younger people names. Megan, Mackenzie, Dakota. You
lost me there.
They have different names than us, Lindsay. It's a different generation.
Okay.
They have different names. Megan, Mackenzie, Michaela.
My kids have those names. I have lots of kids.
I know you have lots. I'm just saying the younger generation have all these interesting names. Anyway, whatever.
If you say so.
My point is, Megan or Mackenzie or Dakota did not go to school to respond to an active shooter threat. So that's all I'm saying.
Yeah,
Like,
there's
it's our
just-
responsibility to fix this. And
It absolutely is. And you know, bringing it back locally, even school choice is such a controversial topic, right? And I hear people saying, you know, you don't want to reward Hinds County or Jackson residents. And I'll tell you this, I will say this. I do believe they're doing something right. If I'm going to ever like praise Jackson about anything, Jackson, Mississippi is the #1 murder
per capita in the country. Yeah.
And for some reason or another, we have not had a mass school shooting in a Jackson public school.
No, we have not.
Because they do have their schools locked down.
They do.
And that's why.
They do. That's the one thing they do a very good job of.
One thing they have done a good job of is keeping that mess out of their schools.
And they have the most issues with it being all around them. I mean,
absolutely.
I prosecuted one guy one time out in front of Wingfield that shot a 15-year-old girl at the bus stop. So it wasn't even in the school. I mean, it was some gangster shit, right? Mm-hmm. But it happened at the bus stop in front of the school, not in the school. But I mean, that's the kind of problem. The reason I say that is because that's the kind of problems that they have outside surrounding the school. Right. That could easily be in the school. We all know the
culture rot that's happening in Jackson, Mississippi.
And that could easily be in the school, but they've, for some miracle reason, I guess because the way they've handled this, they've
done a good job.
Because they realize we know what's on the streets and this going to come in here and we ain't going to let it come in here.
We've got to lock it down.
But for some reason, the suburbs are like, man, whatever, man, you know? Like,
but you know what? I have an even better solution is why not allow families who can't afford to move into other houses in Madison County or Rankin County and put their kids in private school. Why not allow those families to move over to Jackson where they can afford a house, but then also afford them school choice?
What's a different issue than school shootings, but go ahead. I'm confused.
There was some saying that would eventually bring health to Jackson itself. Mm-hmm. It would bring a different culture into Jackson.
Well, I think what would happen with school choice in Jackson would be, you know, every society or city, excuse me, needs a thriving middle class. Mm-hmm. And the problem with Jackson is what you have is you only have a few groups of people that can stay here. One is, you know, very poor people, or one that can stay here, right? Very rich people, you know, and then people that are like young professionals or middle-aged professionals like myself with no children.
Right.
That's the only like 3 groups of people that really can stay. You know, Bellhaven and Fondren are pretty much like a thing about of people my age, a little bit younger, a little bit older, that don't have any children that can stay because, you know, it doesn't matter. Like
but if you want to rid the community of the culture rot, then allow other people to be able to come in.
It's not just a culture rot. It's also you'd have a thriving middle class, which is essential for a city to thrive. Mm-hmm. You need and the bedrock of that is public schools. Yeah. Like, so the, you know, people, if there was, I'll say this, people can deal with the crime if the public schools were good. It's amazing to say that, but really there's actually examples of this. Like the crime, like, oh, well, there's some crime because people are used to, studies will show you this. People are used to living in cities with crime. Like cities have crime. That's the way it is. Mm-hmm. It's not the rural areas. Cities are going to have crime.
Right, big cities have, and this is the capital.
And this city just has more than normal. Don't get me wrong. I'm not justifying that.
Yeah.
But if it had good public schools, you'd see a different base here. So like without that, it can't thrive because you can't have middle class people here because middle class people cannot afford to send their kids to private school.
But I'm not even talking about changing the schools in Jackson.
Yeah,
I'm talking about.
But I know you're not. I know you're not doing that.
If there was school choice available, first of all,
people could live in Jackson.
People could live in Jackson, and then that would eventually change Jackson.
Right? Sure, it would.
It would save Jackson, and then when that happens, obviously the schools are going to get better anyway.
Yeah,
that's what's going to happen over time.
Yeah, it would create a middle class that doesn't exist in the city anymore. It would create a middle class that is completely gone from the city at this point.
Yeah, and I'm just so sick of people like pointing to the fact that we don't want this coming into our city, or we don't want that kind of person coming into our city, or we don't want to reward someone because you've made the wrong voting decisions. Like let's put the emphasis on the children. What is
I think though, you know, you're looking also at a historic issue, right? And what I mean by that is the reason people will argue with me this today, that's fine. But a big reason that Jackson is the way it is, and I'm not blaming all of it before people tear my head off in the comments eventually, is white flight, right? Because people wanted to escape Jackson or southern cities with high black populations and go off to the suburbs and send their kids to school where there wasn't any black people. I mean, let's just be honest, that's what it was. And that started this whole thing. Now, it's not what's continued it. What's continued it is obviously the rot of Jackson and the mismanagement of it and all that, and choke with Lumumba and people like that. So like there's many other reasons. But the beginning of this, when you look at the population, the white population of Jackson in 1980 was about 54%. And then by 1990, it was down to like 32. I mean, so you had that flight from the city that changed the dynamics of the school. And it was based on the school system. I mean, let's not kid ourselves. Like integration started happening real time. Brown versus Board of Education was passed and handed down in 1954. Actual integration was implemented until 1971. That took time. That's when you see all the white population of Jackson started kind of moving out.
And that's when like private schools started to pop up in areas like Yazoo County where I'm from. Correct. That's when our private schools started to pop up in those areas.
Right. The implementation of integration. So, people might want to deny that was a reason. It was a reason. It just look at your history. It was. So, but then of course now there's been things that have exacerbated that. Again, Chuck with the mamas on a yacht doesn't help. But that's part of it. So I think that's what you're seeing a lot of resistance in the suburbs is because like, hey, we're out here and we don't want the black kids coming to school. I'm just gonna be honest. I mean, that's the thing. That's got a lot to do with it.
That's part of it. That's totally a part of it.
I think it's got a lot to do with it. So how you change that narrative or idea, I don't know. That's I'll leave that to you Republicans to figure that out.
Yeah. I just see the benefit of helping children who need the help, whose parents actually care. They can't get better for their children because there's no way to do it, and they're stuck. Right. And I hate that because then there's a mom out here who really does care about her children. We watched the movie. Yeah. And I made you watch it. Right. And this woman, and she was in DC, but she cared so much about her son and his education that she did everything. She worked 2 and 3 jobs to be able to send him to a private school. Still couldn't afford it. But she wanted to keep him off the streets and out of the hands of these people, bringing him into these drug gangs. Right. And she eventually was successful. And more power to her. She passed school choice in DC. And this was years ago. But we've seen it work. Yeah. Sarah Huckabee Sanders has done a great job in Arkansas of getting school choice out and getting it out quickly, rolling it out for everyone. It works. We need it in Mississippi. I'll tell you what,
I'm for it 100%. Like this is something I think should be it should be bipartisan. I really do.
It should be nonpartisan.
Yeah, nonpartisan.
It should be nonpartisan.
That we get this done. I think it's really important. So,
I mean, the children are our future.
I think you're going to see the most resistance. Well, you're going to see, okay, here's your resistance groups from this, right? Are Republicans in the suburbs. I mean, conservatives in the suburbs, resistance groups, and Democrats that are pushing the public school industrial complex. Yeah. Like those are your resistance groups. It's like, and I was arguing with somebody on Facebook about this the other day. Like, it's kind of a weird coalition that they've got. You have the white Republicans in the suburbs that don't want it for the reasons we just stated. And then you have the black Democrats and white liberals, right, that don't want it because they're supporting the public school industrial complex.
And it's just
amazing. They have totally different reasons for not wanting this.
And which of those two groups is thinking about the child and that?
No, neither one of them, because the white conservative in the suburbs are thinking about, I don't want black kids in my schools. And the black Democrat and white liberal are thinking about, we have this industrial complex. It's a public school system. Then we want to feed that, but we don't really care about what happens to the kids. So they're both like, both groups don't really care about that. They don't care. But they have different goals, and their goals are certain interests. Like where I said, the public school industrial complex wants to support that infrastructure system, and the white Republican conservatives don't want black kids going to school with them. Their kids. I mean, it's just what it is. And like they have different reasons, but I don't know if they'll ever join forces together based upon but they have the same goal, like to stop this, And then of course the private schools, you informed me about that. They don't want it either.
The private schools don't want it because, here's the deal. The public schools believe that there will be a mass exodus from public schools. The private schools believe that the government is now going to tell me how I can spend my money.
Right.
That's just not going to be the case on either issue. When people start to pull their kids from public schools to go to private schools, first of all, there's got to be room for them. Second of all, they have to be accepted by that school. And, there's going to be a time when schools will just have to become better to be competitive.
Yeah.
That's what's going to happen. It's going to make our schools better, which is going to be better for our children. Not only that, but it's also going to it's going to take the dollars that are lining the pockets of the superintendents and put those dollars into actually educating our children in a very specific education need basis. My friend Leah has got a great organization that she's gotten going called Mississippi Ready. And I think it's MississippiReady.org, but she's got some amazing information that actually breaks down the facts. And it's been said there won't be a bill this year. There will be a bill. when the legislature starts. There will be several bills. And I just hope that, our legislators are open-minded and can get on board and think about put the kids first.
Well, it seems like a lot of them want to do it, right? Like Jason White's
There are a
for it,
lot.
right?
Jason White is a huge proponent of school
So
choice.
who are your so is it the suburban counties around Jackson that are against it pretty much?
They're it's
And the Democrats
so,
in Jackson are against it, I would assume.
Yeah,
I assume you
but
have like that, right? That's what I was just saying before.
I think it's just a lot of misinformation.
Yeah.
I think they began to use the term voucher early on. I think that was a mistake.
Well, that's a like 90s.
That was a mistake.
That's like a 1990s term. Which, by the way, like the Democratic Party was completely against all that voucher stuff. That was a big conservative thing pushing that. But I think that was more focused towards private schools, and that's why they were. But now you're talking about school choice in terms of some kid going to another public school.
Well, what happened is there would be like education savings accounts set up. So right now in Mississippi, I think children are automatically, each child in public school gets $7,000 something as a base pay.
Right. No, but I'm asking like your school choice plan is that a kid from a Jackson public school could go to like Brandon High School, right?
Yes. If there is room.
Yeah.
If his parents can afford to get him there, can transport him
there.
But
he can go to another public school.
Right.
Right. Okay. That's what I think it's easier for Democrats to get on board with, right? That you can get to another public
school. And
school.
there's another universal school choice that would bridge public private. But I mean, I think in Mississippi we're going to ease into this because we're not all about change here.
No, but I'm saying that's part of like whatever bill you guys would propose would be a kid from like Wingfield could go to Brandon High School.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right, which to me is what I'm supporting. I mean, I'm not so much about the private, them going to a private, which I'm fine with that too. I'm not against that. If there's a compromise, I'm fine with that. But I'm more of like, can they transfer to another public high school?
Right. Well, for me, it's more of a parental rights issue. Like you want your child, especially when you have a special needs child. Now, in Mississippi, we do have school choice for special needs children. A lot of people don't know that. But the cap is so small that there's a waiting list a mile long.
Right.
So what I want to see is that parents are able to determine how their children learn the best and be able to put them in an environment where they do learn, where it's possible for them to have the best education for their particular needs.
Yeah.
And the only way that we can do that is school choice legislation.
Okay. So like as long as I get this straight, so it's gonna be public and private options. So essentially.
Well, it just depends on which bill.
Right.
There's going to be several bills.
That's what I wanted to ask.
There's going to be several bills.
So is there a bill that wouldn't have a public option?
No. I think there would definitely be a public option.
Okay.
I think later would come in the complete universal.
Well, it seems to me like if you just had a private option, then all the white conservatives wouldn't care.
Well,
because they're not going to the
there's a big difference between.
We're going to get them. Then.
There's a big difference between school choice and open enrollment. So open enrollment allows you to enroll in whichever school you want to go to school at. And so I think that's not going to happen overnight in Mississippi.
Gotcha.
I also think it's going to have to be something that's laid out over time so that we can show people that there's not going to be this mass exodus that they think there's going to be, and there's not going to be this overtaking of.
Oh, that's all just fear tactics. I mean,
absolutely. Absolutely.
I was mentoring kids several years ago, and just having to enroll a couple of them in a Jackson public school without their parents was. Trying to get the parents to help was horrific.
And that's what I'm saying. I mean, there's going to be such a small percenage of people from Jackson
doing this, then like you could see it's just not. There's going to be no exodus.
Right.
No mass exodus. But that's just a fear. I agree. That's a fear tactic.
But again, over time, if you get, like you said, a working class, a middle class into Hinds County, into Jackson, because they're able to move here and have a housing they can actually afford, because they're actually able to get school choice and get their kids into school. They don't just send them to Jackson public schools because they know that's not where they need to be. Then we will over time see a new class move into Jackson.
Don't you think it's interesting though that like both groups are using fear tactics?
Absolutely. So, like, I think it's infuriating is what it is. It's infuriating.
So like you have the people in the suburbs using it like it's going to be an exodus, and you know what that is code for? Let's just be honest, right? And we know
we don't want black kids in our white schools. Right. That's what that's code for. I'm sorry. So get mad at me all you want, but you're freaking racist. If you don't want to see children be able to do better, you're racist.
Well, that's a code for it. And then like the black folks in Jackson are using like, oh, they're just going to give the money to white private schools. Like that's the other thing.
But then the private schools are
that's not even true. I mean, like everybody is just not getting this right.
And also the homeschool community, they have been fear-mongered as well, because they believe if they are supportive of school choice, that they are all of a sudden going to be under the government's thumb for the testing. And that's just not the case. There's a total opt-out. If you don't want to take the education savings account for your child to homeschool with,
Mhm.
you can totally opt out of it.
Yeah.
It's fear mongering all over the place, and it's
Yeah,
ridiculous.
I mean, I think, like I said, the most interesting part is that you have like two like polar opposite groups that have the same interests, but for polar opposite reasons.
Mhm.
That they're-
Neither one of them will
look-
support what's for the best interest of children.
Yeah, I wonder if they're going to unite and just like, look, we're going to
I very seriously.
we're going to
doubt
put our
it.
motivations for aside, but we're going to get the same goal. I don't know. It'd be interesting to see though. Oh no.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to stop until it's going to happen.
Well,
It's going to happen here.
I'm excited to see what happens in a couple of weeks.
It
We'll
might
see.
not happen here this year, but you guess what? We fought at the legislative level for religious
Oh.
exemption for 12 years.
Yeah.
And then we sued the state finally and got it. So we don't stop.
Yeah.
Mamas don't stop.
Well, hopefully something cool will happen. Anyway.
Yeah.
Well, it is late on a Sunday night and it is almost Christmas here in a
It's
couple of days.
almost
So
Christmas.
everybody have a great Christmas with your families and
Hopefully,
wait.
Chokeway
I'm going to have a video up tomorrow or on Christmas Eve with Chokeway on the Shelf, and he's going to be joined by his buddy Jody on the Shelf, and they're going
Or
to
on
talk
a boat.
about their
I'm on a
adventures.
boat. I'm
Their
on a
adventures
boat.
in Miami. So tune in for that. It should be pretty funny. Anyway,
Hopefully we'll get that yellow suit in.
yeah, I'm waiting on eBay. that's the hold up here, everybody. So eBay's gonna tell us what to do. So anyway,
All right. Well, y'all all have a Merry Christmas if we don't see you before then. And remember, sometimes it's okay to cross the aisle.
yep, sometimes. Right.
Sometimes.
I'll see y'all. Or we'll